teachers of Reddit, what's the worst thing a student has discovered about your life outside of the classroom? That I'm gay. They found me via Grindr. My son saw his teacher buying beer, and it rocked his world. He mused over it for about an hour, before he rationalized it, and realized his teacher didn't just exist at school to serve the needs of others. He said it was understandable that she would drink, because she had to deal with some rowdy kids in the class. Not a teacher, but I was a homework teacher in an after-school program. One of the kids found out that my coworker and I are husband and wife. Not because we were making out or anything, just another coworker referred to her as my wife. You would think that wouldn't be a problem, but parents flipped out. They thought we'd be making out / fucking in front of kids, even though we had both worked there for like 2 years, and not a single person knew save for that one coworker. Last time my fellow teachers and I had a happy hour outing. One of our students was a waitress at the restaurant, and another student was there with her mom. They all saw us sucking down margaritas like there was no tomorrow, and being way too loud. It was fun. One student discovered my Reddit account name. I pulled that student aside after class. I said, "Do you like having me as a teacher? Yeah. You're awesome. Apostrophe. Would you like me to continue being a teacher here? Well, yeah. Apostrophe. Then you need to never repeat what you learned regarding my Reddit account. Okay. Tada. Crisis averted." Having a student see you buying alcohol is always a bit weird, since we hammer just say no to drugs and alcohol down their throats. A kid accidentally saw a sliver of my tattoo and freaked out. Luckily he was the only one who noticed, and no one believed him. I teach younger children. It is always weird for them to find out that I have a child and I'm not married. I think they feel like teachers always have their lives together, and it seems to be shocking that there is no husband in my life. To the point where many of them get very upset. Also, when I was in high school, I was at a summer music festival and caught my French teacher with 2 beers in her hands and a joint in the one as well. She was mortified when I approached her to say hello and tried to hide everything behind her back. I'm not a teacher, but a student. I used to see my psychiatrist at 8 PM every Monday, and the 7 PM slot was my substitute teacher from my local high school. I remember how awkward it was for both of us when we saw each other, because we actually spoke a lot during school. The next day I went up to him and told him I won't tell any of the other students about that. My school was pretty reckless when it came to rumors. Every Monday for the rest of the school year I would see him before my psychiatrist appointment. Pretty awkward for him, I would say. Not a teacher, but I saw my high school orchestra teacher come out of a sex shop with a brown paper bag and a secretive look on his face. There was a whole group of us hanging around, so of course we couldn't let him just go peacefully on his way with his bag of dildos and porno DVDs. I remember someone saying, "Hey Mr. C, big night tonight." His boyfriend was waiting in the car and they both laughed and looked slightly embarrassed, but everyone was cool about it, and we chatted a bit before they went off to pound each other mercilessly, or whatever. Good dude, Mr. C was. Not a teacher but a student. Many years ago I was delivering pizza part-time while in high school. Had a delivery to a house that turned out to be my biology teacher. He answered the door in a bathrobe, and behind him on the couch was a classmate of mine. Awkward to say the least. But my F turned into a B for the year. We never talked about it, and I never mentioned it to anyone. For years I always thought he was a lucky bastard, because she was a hot girl. Now I know, right place, right time. I could not have graduated without that credit. They saw me walking out of a bar downtown with an attractive male friend of mine who taught at a nearby school. Rumors flew that this guy was my boyfriend, and honestly, I did nothing to stop it. It was the perfect cover, since I'm a lesbian, and was teaching in a school where that could have gotten me fired. It was funny at the time and I used him as my beard for the rest of the year. My daughter's teacher was in the year above me at high school, and he still has me on Facebook. It's funny seeing him at school, calling him Mr. XXXX, and then seeing pics on the weekend of him getting sloshed lol. I don't use FB much, so I don't think he realized I'm still on his friends list. Several years ago, I was on holiday with my family in Majorca during the summer hols. First day, in the outdoor pool with my young son. I'm not the strongest swimmer, and I'm not the most svelte. Anyway, couple of hours in, I hear from across the other side of the pool, Sir, ignore it. Can't be. Can it? Then, Sir, Mr. Spudhead 1976. I look over. There's a year 7 pupil age 11-12ish, whom I have just spent the year teaching, stood waving over at me. I grin inanely, and try to sink. So there you go. A year 7 pupil discovered I had knees, toes and moobs. My home ec teacher my junior year was also good friends with my mom, as I once found out too late. On a Tuesday my mom, her friends, and this teacher came from the bar shit-faced. My bedroom is located underneath the kitchen, and I can hear anything that goes on upstairs, and I could hear my teacher talk about a horrible yeast infection that she had. I was so shaken up I couldn't sleep, because she talked all night. The next day in class I spoke to my cooking partner, and told him the story. The teacher walked in, and said that we were gonna make sourdough bread, and I threw up in my mouth. On the other end of things, we had a seriously hot art teacher for 2 years. She was an ex-Miss Ireland, so you know she's hot as hell. Well, I went to a posh school and we are well connected with students at other private schools in England, especially those that were in our vicinity. When she left, she moved to Harrow School nearby, a well-known school in England. Most people in my secondary school had a lot of friends, and it turns out a student at this other school found topless pictures of her on a memory stick after another teacher had forgotten it in a computer. The pictures spread like wildfire, so much so that they got around to everyone at our school, even though she wasn't there anymore. I saw them as I was a horny, inconsiderate teenager. They were pretty nice, but I felt horrible about it, and deleted them straight away. She apparently cried in the middle of a lesson when she found out. Anyone caught with the pictures was to get an immediate expulsion, but no one was caught in our school. The person who found and spread them at Harrow School was expelled among others. It ended up making the national papers. Found out my 8th grade science teacher was at one point the mayor of a nearby town, and was forced to resign due to most of the people hating him. We even found a YouTube video of him getting roasted by citizens of the town. He was pretty pissed that we discovered it. I had one student in particular who had a crush on me, and it made classroom teaching very uncomfortable. She did a little snooping and found out that I have a cat, and that caused her to go overboard buying stuffed cats, cat cards, cat valentines, you name it, all of which appeared anonymously, but were definition from her. Over time, I wound her down in class without embarrassing her, and she eventually gave up. But all that she did in secret was kind of creepy, even though a crush. No one has found it out yet, but I have some pretty serious anxiety and arachnophobia. I'm constantly vigilant about making sure that none of my students find out about it, because kids can be dicks, and although I'm totally normal basically all the time, if a spider is involved I will crumble into a panic attack. The last thing I need is some kid thinking it'd be funny to put a fake spider in my desk or something, because then I've lost all control over my class. Not a teacher but a student. We had this really cool math teacher a few years ago that a lot of kids really liked, but some arsehole found a website and decided to spread it around. The teacher's ex posted some of his nudes on this revenge site, or whatever. Apparently the news went all the way up to the top and the teacher resigned and moved to Florida or something like that. So, I was meeting my girlfriend once at a local pub right after a workout. I give off a pretty conservative air in the classroom, but under my dress shirt I have a bunch of tattoos that none of my students know about. Anyways, one of my 14-year-old students sees me smoking in a sleeveless shirt, covered in tats, with a beer next to my tat-covered GF. I'm pretty sure his mind was blown to pieces and he assumed I have an evil twin. Went to an adult bookstore with 4 or 5 of my classmates back in high school. We had all recently turned 18 at the time and thought we should check it out. 2 of the chicks with us were holding and laughing at these absurd dildos, while my buddy was commenting on the Jenna Jameson 2-hole rubber mold thing. That's when we looked over and saw one of our highly regarded teachers coming from out of the back. Deer in headlights would be an understatement. I'm not a teacher, but this is something that happened to the former principal of my high school. Well, I should start by saying that I'm from a very rural community in North Carolina. There isn't a lot to do, so you have to drive a little while to go do anything. Apparently a student at the high school found out she was gay and told everyone. The community blew up. The area is predominantly Christian and all of the older folks were raising Cain about the fact that the principal was gay and that she was going to turn their children gay. Well, they can't fire her because she hadn't done anything, but the school board definitely had things to say about the situation. So what does she do? She quits. She says, "I've had enough. If you can't respect me and the work I do, then you don't deserve me." But of course she didn't quit before she filled a few of the positions of teachers that were leaving with some gay teachers. It was perfect. Got into car with a teammate for a roller derby match. As soon as I get in the car I hear Mrs. Maldema 720. It is a punkus student I currently have, who is the niece of my teammate. Turned out okay, because she saw me booty block the shit out at some roller broads. Never had a problem with her for the rest of the year. I was one of the students, not the teacher. I grew up in a very small town. Some of the guys at our high school snuck into the local strip club and discovered that the English teacher was moonlighting as an exotic dancer. Dubious teaching style involved shaming people who got things wrong. One day, she was tearing into this guy when he snapped. "Oh yeah," he shouted, "at least I'm not on the pole." She broke down and fled the room in tears. Years later, she became principal. I once took mushrooms and went to the Modern Museum of Art, MoMASF, and mid-trip I bump into my English teacher. She stops me and questions me why some C-average student hangs out at the art museum on a Saturday. I mumble it's fun, I dunno. English teacher tells my other teachers how sophisticated I am cause I go to the museums for fun. Student here, my middle school math teacher got arrested last year for having thousands of images of child porn hidden in his closet while living less than a mile from school. I had already graduated high school at that point. He was well liked by parents. My brother had him as well and said he always gave off a creepy vibe. Not many past students were shocked about it, but the parents were, since he was so well spoken and well liked by adults. Not a teacher, but my pet teacher was a huge drunk. But he was good at keeping it a secret. Anyway, this guy used to drink vodka between breaks. I shit you not. I live in Eastern Europe. We have like a 45-minute class and a 15-minute break after each class. He was my pet teacher for 6 years. The last years his head started to wobble and shake a bit. It was funny a bit. I mean, he was a super cool guy. Like dream pet teacher, chill guy. Some of my classmates couldn't do a pull-up, and he didn't expel the poor guys. Anyway, I went to the local supermarket one break, and when I went into the checkout line to pay for my stuff, I saw him in front of me. He was buying 2 1L, 33, 8 ounces, vodkas and looked me in the eyes and chuckled. Hey, no worries, I like the guy, and got only A's from him ever since. Once my friends and I spent English class when we supposed to be writing essays figuring out where our teacher lived. Then we were like, "Hey, miss, we know where you live. We are going to stand on the sidewalk in front of your house." Then she asked us not to and we didn't. She also treated my friend group more like her friends than like students because she was maybe 6 years older than us. So we heard all about her boyfriend and her life. It was really funny. My wife is a teacher. One of her students' parents is a waiter at a Mexican restaurant. I guess the dad learned my wife can get blackout drunk off margaritas on a Thursday and still teach the next day.